All right. You miss me? Bad to the bone. It's me, Problem Child, back again. Here, finally, oh God, I was listening to my goddamn mother in my fucking, what are your ears in Irish? Clueless. Is that ears in Irish? Whatever. Who gives a fuck? It's 2022. It's the year of me. I don't know. I'm not really arsed. I have a couple of New Year's resolutions. So last year, you might remember. The year previous, right? 2019 going into 2020, I had a big old list of stuff, right? And I was talking about, I even told you, I was laughing at myself. I even told you Zig Ziglar, his top five, his 5-point method for achieving any goal and all that shit, right? I mean, the main thing is you actually have to do it. You have to follow through. But it does help you focus these tips that he gave. Anyway, so then I had all these plans. And then, of course, the greatest excuse in the history, can we say this, of the universe, the coronavirus, counted that because, maybe you heard of it. Maybe you heard of it. SARS-CoV-2. Maybe you heard of it, huh? I couldn't do that. It's gone to the point now where people are, and this is not me getting on my right-wing soapbox or anything like that. So, oh my God, is this really how we start in the year? Oh my God. No. Just when people blame COVID and it's not the big conspiracy and all that stuff. Although, hang on, if there was a right-wing soap and they had to store it in a box, I think that the soap would probably be called whitewash. So, just hope any alt-right, lush, buyers want to start something, you can call it whitewash. Anyway, come here to me. No, I'm just saying it's been a great excuse for people not to do the things that, they want to do. Or the things they should do. It's been the great excuse, the great leveler, But it's also made people very gormless at their job. We were out at a restaurant, and I just wanted some fucking... Bro, you got a pen? That's what I said. Have you got a pen? I said, have you got any crayons for the young fella? Because we don't want to be giving him the poison of screens. Spend my whole life holding the phone up in front of my face, but the poison of a screen on my child, innocent eyes. Even though his brain will have a chip in it by the time he's 15. But, I said, do you have any crayons just so he can have a little doodle on a napkin? And they're like, no, I'm sorry. Because of COVID, we can't. We used to give out crayons, but we can't give out crayons. And I'm like, oh, look, fair enough. Kids manhandle it and everything. Have you got a pen that he can just draw with on the pen? They were like, again, COVID. I can't give you one of our pens. And I, Moneybags, Scrooge McGrath over here, I said, well, I'll buy the pen off you. And Terry was like, stop. That's not how people talk to each other. And I'm like, well, seems to me this lady, and we were working hard, and everything else was just, it was great. But this lady is probably just, probably been told that you can't give a pen. And I'm like, look, I'll wash the pen. And I'll give you the cash. How much for the pen? And I started taking a big wad of cash. I'm licking my finger the way people do, that you don't really need to do. People never need to be licking pages to turn a page. What's your price for the pen, for the young fella? And I'm holding like 5-cent coins and I just keep licking them. What's your price for the pen? 15 cents? But it's also like, but I would definitely do it. If I was there and someone was like, do you have a pen for my son? I'm like, I'm not getting you a pen. No. I'm not getting you a pen. What's wrong with you? Come with a pen. Who doesn't have a pen? I'm not getting you a pen. If you want another menu, I'll get you another menu. You want a fork? All this stuff. This is stuff I have to wash. Don't be adding anything that I have to disinfect. You muppet. So we didn't get the pen, but it has been a great leveler. So anyway, talking about the goals. I'm just so excited to be back. I'm so excited that you're listening to me. It's so nice to speak and just be heard for a change, rather than the fucking dinner tables I've had to endure. Listen to other people. Okay, I get it. Your kid did something. No, I love all my nieces and nephews, but I want everyone to listen to me. And I have to keep ducking in and ducking out. You know what it is? Of course, I'm very much myself around my family and my in-laws, but I'm not this much of myself. You know what I mean? This confident, sexy like I am when I know people can't speak. People can't interrupt me. How empowered I feel when people can't interrupt me for a change. Just listen. All right, round table. If you had to come up with a soap that Nazis used, what would you call it? I would call it whitewash. What would you call yours? So anyway, my New Year's resolutions are, last year my New Year's resolution went from, so 2019 going to 2020, I had all these goals. I had like 15 goals. I had things like, run a 5K, which I still, to be fair, could have easily done with COVID restrictions. I had like, deadlift my own body weight. I had, text my friends, do a voice message to my friend every day, rekindle a friendship that's maybe petered out every single minute. There was other ones, record an hour special, do an hour comedy special and release it online, and have it professionally done. And that was one that I couldn't do. But I had all these goals, and then they just, and then it was also like, I knew I couldn't do them. I wasn't too upset by the fact that I couldn't do them. Blamed COVID for everything. But then 2020 into 2021, my only goal, any goal's a hole. Any hole's a goal. That's the one. It's a golfing term, I believe. Every hole's a goal. In 2021, my only goal was to wash my face sometimes. I was wash my face sometimes, not just when I'm in the shower doing a whole cleanser or whatever like that, but in the morning, assign a bit of time in the morning and the evening to look after myself, and start with your fucking face, right? Like how you draw a picture. Start with your face and then draw everyone else around. That's how I start when I'm drawing things. I start with a face and then move everything else out. That's why a lot of the time I don't have much time for the landscape, because the face is at the very center of the page. And the reason was that when I do a small little thing, it kind of sets my mindset into the rest of the things, right? And they don't, honestly, don't be fucking lit. I'm really talking about me here. Do not come to me for any kind of, you're like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I put on probably 12 to 15 pounds last year, right? The scales differs depending on whether I peed in the morning, right? I carry a lot of piss, right? I have a massive bladder, a famously large bladder. I actually think, and I never do it at the time, but I actually think that if I were to time how long I pee for, and that's not to say that I have a difficult time peeing, I just pee for a long time, that I would break some kind of Leinster record. But I always realize halfway through that I should have timed it, halfway through the pee, and it's already, you never think beforehand. You're like, oh, this is just surprisingly gone. And, so 2021 was the year the scales getting very fucking sassy with me. I have a digital scales, and it kept saying stuff like, okay, cool. Is this the same person that was on last time? Just checking. Are you sure you're in the same account? Because this is... okay, it's the same guy. Same guy. Right, it's just... okay, cool. Like a newborn baby's worth of weight. Which surprisingly, I don't mind. That's the annoying thing. I don't mind it too much. I see my kind of face filling out. I see my jumpers getting a bit bigger, and I'm like, actually, I feel like it looks good. I kind of like it. I feel like I look bigger, like a Popeye villain, Bluto, or like a medieval king. I like it because I'm such an egomaniac. So I just think, more to love, But I would like that to be a bit more. Anyway, look, I don't even know what point I'm making here. So that was my only goal. But this year, right? I've realized the mentality is everything to me, right? If I'm feeling like a good boy, I'm likely to remain a good boy for the rest of the day, right? I'm either a good boy or I'm a bad boy. I'm a fucking bad boy. And I tell you, I'm a bad boy, right? I'd say 2% of the year I'm a good boy, and then 98% I'm a fucking deplorable bad boy, right? It's more like smug or indifferent. That's actually what it is. I spend 2% of my year smug, walking around being, don't tell everyone that you did a walk today and try and brag about it, right? Just, it's fine. Don't tell someone you had chicken breast for lunch, right? Don't. You get to keep that smugness. That's a beautiful gift that you have. You know you're better than everyone because you had that chicken breast earlier on today, right? You know that. Keep it for yourself. That's for daddy. That's just for daddy, right? So I spend 2% of the year smug and 98% indifferent. So how do what are the smallest hackable steps to me being smug for the rest of the day? Because if I do something early, then I'm less likely to be indifferent for the rest of the day, right? If I get to be smug. So what I'm going to do is 3 days a week, just leave out my runners. Leave out my runners so that they're the only clothes that I'm getting into the next day, right? My runners and my shorts. And if I'm wearing that, I'm more likely to go for a run. That's a habit stack from the Power of Habits by Charles Duhigg, I think. That's one of the key fundamentals, is how to stack on a habit. But whatever, I'm not even talking about doing the run. I'm not even talking about going for a big long walk. I'm just talking about putting the gear out, right? I can do that. And then once I'm in the gear, I'm more likely to have the momentum to keep going, you know? Similarly, I'm going to bung one day a week, just bung a load of shit in the air fryer. Just one day a week, one day. Get a big fucking bag of strong roots or whatever, fucking sweet potatoes, put it in there, a load of chicken breast, and whatever. Just even me putting it in, I'll feel, and leaving it out for the next morning or leaving it out in the freezer, I will, if I know that that's in the fridge, I'm likely to be smug. And I'm likely to be like, no, I have that for lunch. I'm not going to sin with anything else. Or I'm going to bring it with me or whatever it might be. So it's just what's the fucking smallest thing that I can do to get me into the mentality of being smug and better than everyone else. That's all I need, right? Because once I'm in there, I can work in there, you know? And I do think in terms of the long-term thing, I need to just maybe monitor, the weight, and maybe I probably do need to have some sort of weight goal. But I don't know, I kind of like getting bigger, so maybe I need to have some sort of muscle goal. I don't fucking know. But anyway, that's what I'm going to do. But again, do not ever listen to me, right? Don't you ever listen to me. That's just what I'm going to do. Anyway, look, on the pod today, I'm going to be talking about the year 2021. Just a little recap, just to get started again. Talk about some of the flicks that I liked. We watched a lot of flicks this year. Talk about some of the TV shows that came out and give a bit of a ranking of my top 5 TV shows, and talk about some of the best moments. Talk about some of the biggest disappointments. There was a lot of big flicks that imho, in my humble opinion, did not quite stick the landing, and some of the games. And I'll be closing out the show with the top 5 songs that I found, because I do not listen to contemporary music, but some of the top 5 songs that I found by browsing on Spotify this year. So that'll be playing us out at the end of the show. But before we get on to that, I would like to thank the sponsor of this week's podcast, the Dublin Irish Whiskey. Look, I love this man. I love the brand. And I love them. And nothing ever wrong is going to come out about them ever. They have squeaky clean porcelain bone skeletons in their closet. But they're a fine brand. They're a fine bunch of people. And we're hopefully going to be doing some very exciting things in the new year. And I hate when people kind of allude to stuff, but trust me, it's going to be quite cool. But I also want to talk about their fine whiskey. What I'm drinking right now, because I'm trying to be a bit more conscious. I'm pinted out, to be honest. I'm pinted out. And if you're the same as me, you might find this refreshing, because I found it refreshing for the last week. Getting a shot of whiskey, I use the Dubliner. Put a shot of whiskey in a pint glass. I put in a full lime's worth of juice, half a lemon, and then some ice, and I filled it to the fucking brim, mate, with sparkling water, because that's what I like. And I tell you, it's very refreshing. It's very low-cal and very fucking tasty, and I highly recommend. And this one is particularly tasty because it's the Dubliner Old Fashioned, which has all the kind of bitters taste. It has all those kind of star anise kind of taste that you get from an Old Fashioned, and it's got all that lemon and lime, and it's absolutely delicious, and I really enjoy it. And if you want to grab yourself a bottle of the Dubliner Irish Whiskey, go to the dld.com, and it's free shipping if you order over €30. So that's handy. Pretty handy, huh? The dld.com. Anyway, let's talk about 2021 today on the Tony Cantwell Shit Show. The Tony Cantwell Shit Show. And I know that the show is Tony Cantwell Shit Show. And I know, yeah. And I know you and you know me, and I know your mum, and she knows family. She's always telling me, stop drinking, can't stop sitting on me wall, I just painted a wall. I still get off a wall if a guard's going by. I'm just sitting on the wall. And then, a guard comes by and I hop off the wall. Still, I've never been very good with authority. Even now, I am good with it. But if I realize I can be cheeky, I will take the opportunity to be cheeky, because if I kind of know my rights enough, and I tell you, the cheekiest thing I ever did was they opened up a head shop in Fairview, right? And it was in Clontarf. This is back in the. I need to do a whole podcast on the wild. You think the Atlantic Way is wild? You want to see when the head shops were legal, pal? You think that shit's wild? You know, you think the rolling hills of Connemara are wild? There was a fucking florist that shut down and 4 hours later turned into a head shop selling fake gack. That's wild. And we went up to the fake florist, me and someone who I won't name, not to indict anyone, and we bought one of their world famous incense sticks. It was a pre-rolled spliff of some kind, as was within our legal right at the time of being of consenting age, and we just want to have a nice relaxing bath or whatever. So bought one of these big old spliffs. These packed a punch. These spliffs were rolled as if the person rolling it knew that the popo were onto them, and they may never roll another spliff. This spliff might have to last the rest of time. This might be in a smoke circle 6 billion people wide, and will have to last. They'd be so strong. And when you're just a greedy teen. And do you remember one time we bought one on St. William Street? And again, like, we were of age. Like, it was like going in and buying a pint, anywhere, which was totally within our right to do. And 5 of us went up and bought a spliff each. And then all lit our spliffs like they were cigars at a wedding. And then we just we were kind of like passing them around, even though it was the same amount. And we got so high that we forgot roads were different to paths. and a couple of honks later, we were given a bit of manners, you know what I mean? We luckily fled for our lives, but we didn't we remember walking across Central Bank, just walking across, like, from the path over to, like, that shop that sells pens. And I was like walking across, and I'm like, the big city, Anyway, this time though we were out, and we were outside. This isn't even a big story, but this is the cheekiest thing I've ever done. Outside the florist, and we sat outside staring out at the Clontarf, seafront, and we lit up our big, massive. You'd swear if you saw us from a distance, you were like, "Oh, are these two lads practicing the recorder?" I don't know. These are just two big legal spliffs, pal. Well, as soon as we lit them up, we had the lovely red light of our flame, followed by a blue light of woo, as the Gardaí Síochána pulled up, and it was like 2:00 in the morning, 24-hour. This shop. I went to this shop, right? We just randomly took a walk further. We were walking back from town. We were going to a gaff in Fairview. We just kept walking. We were having good chats. We still had a bag of cans. And we started walking up Clontarf seafront. And we saw this shop. And they were moving. It was 2:00 in the morning. They were moving stuff in. And my mate was like, "This was a florist today. I bought flowers today from my ma. This was a florist. It's gone." We saw the kind of boxes they were putting in, had a kind of, I don't know, like funky characters, wacky aliens, and funky characters that would appeal to our, my demographic at the time. And so we pop our head in. We're like, "Hey, what's crack? He's open?" And they say, "Yeah, 24/7." And I'm like, "That's weird. That's weird." And then we kind of see what they're unloading, and they're unloading, packets of smoke, tins of this fake substance. They actually still sell it in Thailand. You can buy cigarettes that just have this in it. This chemical compound, powdery thing that you put in cigarettes, or in, I think it's mixed with tobacco. Anyway, they were unloading, and powders and powders that had, images of, I don't know, like, cats, meowing cats eating each other's faces off. And well, that's funky. That's some funky imagery that appeals to my demographic. So we were kind of like, "Oh wow, is this going to be like the local head shop? Is this going to be like Cheers, you know? Where everybody's off their nut. But you know what? They weren't that friendly, to be honest. Like they did say they were open 24/7, but they were like, you know, they were like, "Are you going to kill me for even pumping it?" I think we were their first customer, and they didn't. Their kind of, you know, their kind of community spirit wasn't there yet. You know, their kind of whatever the retail equivalent of bedside manner is. You know what I mean? So we were like, "Look, well, yeah, all right. Look, we have 2 of your finest pre-rolled spliffs, please." And they were like, "You mean incense stick?" And I'm like, "Whatever, pal. Whatever helps you sleep." And so we took them and we went out, and that's when we lit up, you know, 1 each. Even, do you know what? Even now, thinking about how drunk I would have been then, that would put me out of commission for 2 weeks. And then adding on top of that, oh my God, I can't believe there was ever a tomorrow. So we lit up, and then woo, and the Gardaí shining a light in our face, like, "Hey, what's going on here? Hey, what's going on here?" And I, you know, I don't know, looking for a bit of trouble, looking for curry, as we used to call it. When you were looking for a bit of trouble, looking for a bit of chase, you'd say looking for curry, right? So I was looking for curry, and I go, "Hey, just enjoying a fine incense stick, buddy, from the shop over there that I bought legally. So if you got a problem, you could take it out with them." It was proper fucked about material. And my friend was aghast. He was aghast at the sight of this, because I'm a very soft-spoken boy. You know, I'm a little pink boy, and this was definitely not the time to to emulate a bad boy. But I did know that we, as I'm saying now, that's why I have no real issue talking about it on the pod here, that it was within our rights to do so, you know? And I tell you, not to get on another bloody drug reform kick, but we didn't know we were smoking. We had no idea what it was. Could have been anything. They had to change the chemical formula of it so often so that they could, you know, it could still be sold in the EU. You know, and then every time everything would just like, no, now this chemical compound's gone, and they'd move on to the next thing and move on to the next thing. But imagine we could go into a shop and say, "Hey, me and my pal are looking for something that makes YouTube videos funnier, just marginally, that won't put us out of commission for 2 weeks afterwards. We want the sort of stuff that doesn't blur the lines between path and road." You know, and then someone would be like, "Oh, this is a kind of a light, low percentage THC sativa that'll make monkeys even monkier." Wow, that sounds brilliant. And I won't get all lazy and want to quit my life goals in college. Not this strain. Wow, great, because that exists, you know. But instead we're going in there, you know, saying, "Do you have that that makes me less of a cannibal?" You know, the last stuff you gave me had a kind of cannibalistic kind of vibe. You know, luckily, I came to just chewing his nose, but who knows what could have happened, you know. But you know, I'm 34. You know, I've I started messing around with weed when I was like 17. On and off again. I've gone years without touching it, and I for the most part go, you know, weeks or months without my own personal use, and I very seldom do it alone. But every time that I've done that, every time I've wanted just to make monkeys even monkier, which is essentially all I want to do, I've either been having to do it legally and putting money in the hand of someone who's changing chemical compounds to stay out of prison and doesn't mind if people are literally tearing the faces off each other, and then other people who are using that as the kind of low ball stuff to make money so that they can, you know, do fucking gun running and, you know, human trafficking and all the elements that you don't know, the seedy side, where I'd rather be putting that money into a hospital, you know. I just want to watch monkeys. I want to watch gibbons swing around and pull the tails off cats. Not in an aggressive way, but just kind of being a bit cheeky and laugh my ass off with my pals. And I want to make sure that money goes to a hospital. You know what I mean? That's all I want. And I don't want it just to be going to people who don't have the best interests of people, you know. How amazing would it be if we had more ICU beds? And how do we get it? By watching silly monkey videos made even better. You know, that's all I want to do. And, other people like it for, chronic illness and stuff like that. But monkeys for me. Anyway, look, I'm going to talk about... that was an unexpected chat about the head shops. But now I want to talk about the year 2021. I found this year me and Terry started watching a lot more flicks. Since we have a baby, everyone's telling us about series to get into. And oh my God, like... the pilot has to be so unbelievably good that we don't have time for any character building. As I said, we were watching episodes of The Witcher. Every time they're trying to talk about someone else who isn't The Witcher, I'm like, where's Poochie? Where's The Witcher? Just bring me the buff lad. Hopefully he's either fighting something that looks class or he's having a bath. Either way, I'm here for it. Give me the Cavill in the bath or chopping something, right? Because I'm dumb, because it's all the time I have for, right? I have to watch. So if I watch a movie, I can feel like I achieved something. So I was prioritizing movies this year over watching series. But again, I'm not going to the IFI, right? I'm not seeing erotic French thrillers as much as I would love to, right? I'm watching whatever the top movies are, right? Because again, this is just what I have time for right now. And there is what's so amazing about film is that it exists forever. And I can watch all of the French erotic thrillers that I've missed in 2020, 2021. And also, what I've actually been really enjoying, I know it's an unpopular opinion, I've been really enjoying Disney Plus's drip feeding of episodes. They did it with The Mandalorian, one episode each week, and that's kind of their model now for the Marvel shows as well, is that it's just one episode each week. And I don't know, we don't know our own appetite for things, right? We're so desperate just to get everything in. Do we even enjoy it? Because we just don't want to have that spoiled. It's like eating a whole bag of chips because you're worried someone's going to ask you for a chip, right? And I don't know if that's the most palatable way of enjoying content. So I've been enjoying just one episode a week. So, as I said, these are just the flicks that I've seen, right? Of the flicks that I've seen, my top 5 flicks of the year were in descending order, right? Number 5, Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi and The Legend of the Ten Rings. I thought this was a class flick. I thought it was a brilliant flick. The only thing that held it back was this loose grasp to the MCU. It in isolation as just a badass martial arts movie with some of the most impressive practical effects that I've seen, all year. Especially, this is a movie. It's a movie that now it's a long movie, but in the same flick you have this unbelievable, like close quarters old boy style, martial arts fight that's taking place on a bus. You got Speed meets Old Boy. You got Awkwafina screaming her head off. Everyone's laughing their ass off. You got Simu Liu, who is just the hottest, coolest dude. It's like Chris Pratt coming out with a fucking the purple shower in Guardians of the Galaxy. Star-making performance. He's absolutely brilliant in it, and I want to see him helm. I actually don't know anyone else really that I'm as excited for in the MCU as Shang-Chi, to be perfectly honest. I think he's a breath of fresh air, and I am really interested in seeing more of his martial arts antics. Now, the end does get a bit... I'm not spoiling it in here, but what the fuck are you doing all those animals and dragons and shit? It's cool to see. Dragon's cool to see. But it was the same issue that I had with, Black Panther. It's like, why is there a big, massive rhino-looking thing that's someone's pet? I don't need that. What I had was this amazing, Afro-futuristic society. What I had is Michael B. Jordan, the best villain, in my opinion, of the MCU. In any other movie, is the hero. He's the Django. You know what I mean? He's just out on a vengeance mission. He had his dad killed in cold blood in America. All his dad was trying to do was trying to just use some of the resources of Wakanda to for the betterment of Africans in America. Get shot in cold blood by Black Panther's dad. Anyway, the point I'm getting at, it didn't need the fucking rhinos running around. Neither did Simu Liu or Shang-Chi. One and the same now. He's amazing. So I really enjoyed that flick. Coming in at number 4, The Matrix Resurrections. I love this flick. I was watching it and I was like, I don't have I'm going to stop swearing. I didn't have a clue. I didn't have a fecking clue what was going on until I thought about it later and then read the Wikipedia afterwards. But after reading the Wikipedia, now arguably that is too dense, and that's why it's a 4.5 and not a 5-star for me, because I was watching it at first and I was like, I kind of want I want the JJ cut of this. I was thinking to myself, right? I want the JJ cut. I want you to dumb this down to me, right? I want you to take the best bits and all the bits that I remember and force feed them back to me and have it look cool and have it look amazing action and all that stuff. But what you get is something completely different. What you get is something that essentially adds even more rules, even more, synthience, modals, like brand new reinterpretations of the characters, but they're also programs, but they're also real. And it's adding more, which you would just mean like, no, strip it back. But it somehow, because of how they're telling the story, it just becomes this absolutely transcendent piece of satire for the current state of movies in America. Lana Wachowski did not want to make this movie. They didn't want to make this movie at all. There was rumors that Michael B. Jordan, I know I mentioned him already, was going in, and he was like, yeah, I wouldn't mind being Morpheus, and there was other directors that were going to take it over. Warner Brothers even brought it up in Space Jam as an IP. They've been looking to fish it around. It's a $1 billion franchise. They didn't want to do it. Didn't have anything to do with it. The Wachowski sisters didn't want to touch it anymore. So the rumors were that someone else was going to do something with it. So Lana Wachowski's like, all right, you know what? I wouldn't actually mind seeing Neo and Trinity again. I wouldn't mind making something. And what she ends up making is something that, if you're a fan of The Matrix, it seems like the Wachowskis just con people out with their money to make exactly what them and like 5 people want to make. And I think that's brilliant. I think that's brilliant. They go to Germany to get Cloud Atlas made, and they get like $60 million or something off the German government, and they make a movie that only Tom Hanks likes. It's amazing what they're able to do. So, but I love this. I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but it is a very meta movie. It's kind of like, of course, if you saw the last film, that Neo and Trinity die, and the Matrix is essentially reset, and the war between the machines and the humans is over. That still can exist. That's without being too sweaty of a premise. They're able to actually bring everything back, and also make a commentary about the modern society, our anxiety when it comes to technology, how that is being used as a kind of battery, considering the fact that humans are the batteries in the Matrix, a reinterpretation of what it is to be the Messiah, what it is to be the One, a commentary on what remakes are, and I mean, some of it is a bit cringe. There's some bits where it's kind of like, they're kind of workshop and stuff, and it's so on the nose, and it could have been funnier. It just could have been funnier. There's bits that are meant to be funny that aren't funny, that are a bit clang, but and the action isn't great. But you know what? I kind of like Neo in the whole movie. Doesn't shoot a gun. He is just kind of like, he's just every single move is kind of somehow in defense. The set pieces aren't as impressive, but just for as big of a swing as it is to say, Warner Brothers literally asked me to make a movie that I don't want to make. So here is me making a movie that adds to the mythology of the Matrix, brings up 1,000 different themes, does this kind of scathing commentary, not on people, but on how uncomfortable it is to be bombarded with information and desperately asked what we like, what we don't like, to define everything, to put things in boxes about identity, while also, being true to the movie in a meta way, and also giving you a tight little story. It's like a tight, satisfying beginning, middle, and end that the other 2 movies couldn't quite do. This is kind of its own origin, it's self-contained, and also then, like Neo, flies off and being like, fuck your franchise, there's no way you can make anything after that. It's brilliant. It's an act of genius. It's however much it was, $200 million stroke of genius. All right, number 3, Dune. Whoa. Hey, it's me, a Sardaukar throat singer. Whoa. Look, I know I went to this flick about 20 minutes late, and I missed the first 20 minutes, and I was a little bit high and very overwhelmed at how loud everything was. But on second viewing, I thought it was brilliant. Now, it is still a 4.5 star because it has a very dissatisfying ending, and not in the way seeing Lord of the Rings for the first time, the Fellowship of the Ring, in the cinema was dissatisfying. People came out of the cinema, I remember, for Fellowship, and they were like, "What? Just fucking finishes." No one knew. Like, I was, I knew it was like 3 books, but I'm like, yeah, but like, I thought it'd be like a satisfying ending, and then there'd be a sequel. No, it's all one story, and that the concept was foreign to us at the time. But with this, I kind of felt like Denis Villeneuve could have come up with something. I know he took the book and split it into two. But so, he essentially has cut it in the middle of, I think, kind of at the start, a second act, from what I understand, because there's a lot of world building that has to go into it. I've not read it, but either way, he's cut it in half, and I think he should have made something up. He should have made up a problem that is, in the first act that gets, solved in the third act. You just should have made something up. If that didn't exist in the book, then I think something should have been made up, just so it would be a little bit satisfying. But the ending feels like the beginning of the second act, and it's not. So it's still a 4.5. If he sticks the landing on the next one, it's 2 5-star flicks, imho. And I do find it particularly interesting and impressive that something that's a 60-year-old piece of text of sci-fi that is, one of the most popular, if not the most popular sci-fi novel of all time, that has been borrowed from across 60 years of media, he can still put something up there that's the first sci-fi and still feels brand new and contemporary, And the sound, I haven't had an experience like that, seeing it in IMAX. The sound blew my sphincter over my head. I thought it was brilliant. And I don't know what's going to happen. Stop trying to spoil it for me, okay? People tell me all mad shit that happens, it's 60 years old. Look, just, I'm just let me enjoy it at a palatable speed, right? All right, coming in at number 2, my second favorite film of the year was Mitchells versus the Machines. This is a Sony animation flick, and I tell you, Pixar, bro, with great respect, I wept for you for Coco, mate. I watched WALL-E there. What an underrated score in WALL-E, by the way. Obviously, the whole thing is the first hour or whatever, 45 minutes, no one speaking. But I rewatched it there. The music is absolutely beautiful. Anyway, Pixar, mate, they're coming for you. They had the better year. With Mitchells versus the Machines. What did you have this year? Was Soul this year? Was that last year? Encanto, oh my God. And can't believe how boring this flick is about a family with magical powers. That's insane. Onward, I thought was shite. I thought it was boring. And it was really on the nose heartstrings. There's been 3 movies they've done about kind of grief and bereavement, and Coco, Onward, and Soul. And I think Coco's the only one that sticks landing, even if it just doesn't even fully go into kind of bereavement. It just goes into the idea of mortality. But as you know, Coco is my favorite Pixar movie of all time. But Mitchells versus the Machines is just a hilarious. It's like a National Lampoon road trip movie, but with some of the most impressive animation that I've seen. Certainly the best animation I've seen this year. And it's probably my top 10 animated movies of all time. It's just a family wanting to go on a road trip. The dad's kind of, the kids are flying the coop. He wants to go for one more road trip, and it's incredibly heartfelt and very funny. And again, a very scathing commentary about our relationship with technology and billionaire tech moguls. And it has a Furby uprising in it, which is brilliant. It's not even part of any Furby IP. They just got Furby in there. Brilliant. The same way that Pixar did for Mr. Potato Head. And it's really, really funny. I kept laughing out loud. It's a family movie. And I think Sony Pictures, Sony Animations, they're coming for you, bro. Pixar. And I was very disappointed. I'm going to say this was in one of my top 5 disappointments. But Encanto, bro, I couldn't believe that was Lin-Manuel Miranda tunes. I was very disappointed. It should have been his year. It should have been his year had there been no pandemic, because he did Tick Tick Boom, and I thought that was brilliant. Wouldn't be in my top. Doesn't quite make my top 5. Certainly an honourable mention. He does In the Heights, which I had to turn off. It was getting a bit. It wasn't for me. I liked all the music, but I just don't like anyone who likes their gaff or likes their area that much. You know what I mean? I know it's great and it's vibrant and everything like that, but you wouldn't hear me singing about Rahini like that. You know what I mean? So I don't really like people who are that house proud. It's probably an Irish thing. It's not a very Irish palatable movie. We just don't have the same passion for where we live. And then he also did the music for this. So with Tick Tick Boom, he directs for the first time, produces, I think, and then obviously has the music for In the Heights, and then writes all the music for this Encanto. And Pixar don't normally do out-and-out musicals, but normally when they do, this kind of like a through line. This seems like they were like, what do you have? And we'll figure out a movie based around it. And I think based on the timing, he went in and did the music for Moana, which fit Moana. They were like, this is our movie. Do you have a song that will fit Moana? He comes out with some banging tunes. With this, I think he went in there and they were like, all right, well, we have a load of tunes. One's about being fucking strong. One's about being beautiful. Let's make up a load of sisters that all have magical powers. And it didn't quite stick the landing for me. And in fact, I actually thought it was bad and boring. And the songs didn't have a through line. And also, I don't know why Pixar are even doing songs. Leave that for Disney, Disney animated movies. Do Frozen and, Tangled and Moana. Leave it to them. You just do your class movies about robots shooting fucking fire extinguishers in space, please. So Mitchell's versus the Machines is my number 2 movie of the year. The number 1, I don't know if you even call it a movie, but it was the best feature-length thing that I watched all year. It was an absolutely transcendent piece of art by the name of Inside, Bo Burnham's comedy special that came out this year. I honestly, I just think it's a stroke of genius. I think it's just perfect. And people get into the weeds of like, oh, did he make everything else? No, of course he had to have things up to a certain spec so it could go out on Netflix, and he had editors, and I'm sure he was sending off footage, and they were coming back asking, can you recut stuff? And he is growing his beard, so you can kind of see more or less the progression of time, but that's not really that important, really. I said this when I first saw it, and I'll say it again. Normally when I see anything to do with comedy, or someone doing a comedy special, I'm like, oh shit, like I can't do that. It's the same reaction that I had when I remember finishing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater with Rodney Mullen, and then you see Rodney Mullen's skater video, and I'm like, oh fuck, and I smashed my skateboard. I'm like, I'm never skateboarding again, because I'm never going to be able to do that, so there's no point. With this, it was like, that is that. You're seeing an actual genius use their tool and be so young, but having done thousands of hours of just making and crafting and composing, just culminate in this. And it's just the best representation of his own mental health at the time, while also making banging tunes. And it didn't make me jealous. It just made me grateful to be in the same industry, and did really inspire me to at least want to make better content, down the line, or just know that something like that is attainable for someone to make, and as technology improves, it's going to be even more accessible for people to make. But what I find very interesting and really resonated with me is, even though we don't do the exact same, thing, you can never do what I do, hold a phone up to his face, you know what I mean? Even though we don't do the same thing, and his would be, I can only imagine what he'd be going through. If I make a Mazmate video, right? That is the 100th, if not 120th take that I've done of that video. My phone is filling up. Every single time I make a video, my phone runs out of storage, and I have to delete takes, because I just go over and over and over again until I get it right. So I can only imagine with him and his attention to detail, how many times he's had to rewatch himself over the course of a year, and how frustrating that can be, how there's been so many times I don't get it, and I'm like, fuck, and I just want to throw my phone across the room. He's got so much more on the line. There's, Netflix is involved. There's producers involved. And you can kind of see it from when he starts the show, the special, and songs like Comedy. It's thought out. It has layers. He's using all this energy just to make it as good as it can possibly be, and adding, breaks and all these different parts to the song. And then when it gets down to like All Eyes on Me, it's just this sweeping kind of drone that he's clearly had these 4 chords, and he's just been playing them over and over again on a loop. And this is the song that came out. Probably that was the song that took him the longest time. I'm totally conjecture, I don't know. But it just has that feeling of when you just are kind of lost and disassociated from yourself a little bit, and you're just listening to the same chord progression over and over, and you're trying to make something of it. Do you know what I mean? Without knowing what you're trying to make. I think anyone who's kind of messed around with, Ableton or anything like that, sometimes you can just get lost in this hypnotic loop of something. You don't really know how to get out, or what you initially even wanted to make. So I just find that interesting, and that resonated with me. And I think it's the definitive piece of COVID art. I don't think anything can top it now. I think it's, in a world where you're turning off some content because it has to do with COVID, and other things, like I was watching Hawkeye, and it's nothing to do with COVID, and they're going around New York, and it's Christmas, and I'm like, it just feels weird, enjoyable, but it still feels, how are you not mentioning it at all? I don't know how it kind of walks the line of being everything and nothing to do with COVID, Anyway, as you can tell, I fucking liked it. Anyway, honorable mentions, it didn't quite make it into this One is Chris Pratt vehicle, The Tomorrow War, which is the most batshit dumb, sweaty as you can get premise of aliens are attacking in the future. So the people in the future open a portal to send people from the past, as in present day, into the future to fight the aliens because they need more bodies. It doesn't make any sense. No one at any point thinks of using a weapon of mass destruction. No one ever thinks to use drones, robots, any future technology. They need bodies from the past, but somehow it just pulls it off with brilliant creature design there's some terrifying moments. It's a mix of Predator, Alien, Independence Day, even a little hint of the Terminator. It's got a fairly boring end to second act, and then the third act just comes out of nowhere, and it's some big dumb fun, while somehow it's just incredible. I don't know how they pulled it out. Like, I think it's a 3-star flick. I think it's a 3-star flick in the long run of things, but I gotta mention it because I really had such a good time watching it. Why is it still a 3-star flick? Because it doesn't break any new ground, and in terms of its, the second act is pretty boring, and it's very sweaty premise, very sweaty. Another honorable mention was a flick I just saw over Christmas, Don't Look Up, and it's one I was looking forward to. It's an Adam McKay movie off the back of The Big Short and Vice. He's gone for more kind of grounded political satires rather than his other movies, which are just hilarious oddball still satires like Anchorman and Talladega Nights. I saw a reviewer kind of say that they would have preferred if this was more in the realm of a Talladega Nights, in the way Talladega Nights is just like a commentary of the Bush era America, and Anchorman is a commentary of, the hard drinking chauvinist 70s lifestyle. And it might have been better served like that. I don't know, maybe if it was a bit more, this is the end, maybe. But I really enjoyed it. I thought every single person in it is just so in the pocket with their own character. And even though it's far too long, and if it was cut down to 20 minutes, I think it would be a classic film. And the premise is, that the Earth is ending, and I think people don't like something being so on the nose as climate change, global warming, because it is a movie, but essentially about climate change, that there is an asteroid coming, that we are going to die if we don't do something about it. But I thought it was really fun. It might not be the smartest movie in the world, but it might be the first to really show how you can politicize and weaponize any viewpoint, to the point where Don't Look Up, to not look at the asteroid, becomes kind of the call of the far right who want to believe that they're not going to die, and so it's really dumb, but it still has this kind of star-studded cast and kind of walks the line of a Vice of the Big Short. So it doesn't quite stick that landing like tonally, but like Tony. But I did find it funny, and I thought everyone in it is just being like far better than they need to be for this. Like it's a Talladega Nights with Meryl Streep giving an incredible performance, Mark Rylance giving this insane robotic kind of Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg kind of mogul performance. Leonardo DiCaprio has like a network level screaming, rant like, yeah, I want you to be mad, and it's brilliant. And I don't know. I saw it was getting bad reviews, but I liked it. I think we can all see what it's going for. Some people like that, and other people don't. And that's fair enough. I liked it. I want to just make another commentary, right, about, not commentary. I wanted to say something, right? I'm sick of the fucking Rock. All right, I'm sorry. I never thought this day would come. I'm sick of The Rock. I love him, but I'm sick of him, and he is ruining cinema. He is ruining cinema. I saw him advertising today his own French toast recipe for his cheat day that he does, and he's now launching this French toast, and someone's like, just fucking stop it, right? He makes Jungle Cruise. It's boring. It's not quite The Mummy. It's not quite, Pirates of the Caribbean, and everything has a story. Everything is. He remember him talking about Jungle Cruise, and he was like, ever since I saw Pirates of the Caribbean, it has been my dream to make a movie based off a roller coaster. And I'm like, what, really? This chap has more dreams than I have stories about smoking bifters. Like, I can't. It was always my dream to have a French toast sold in Miami. Like, shut up, mate. I love you. But I can't handle this. And what you've just, the beigeification of Hollywood, what you have done, your $7 productions. I know they love you in China, and that's great. And I know they love you in America, whatever, for the most part, and that's great. But Red Notice is the most boring piece of shit I've ever seen. It is so unbelievably devoid of character, and he doesn't know how to play characters anymore. And every character he plays, they're just talking about what he looks like. Look, Schwarzenegger was impressive. You're not impressive, bro, right? And Schwarzenegger had more charisma on his fucking little finger than you do in your entire pectoral, right? Or your whole body, whatever. I don't even know. I'm tired now. I'm done with you, Rock. And I can't believe you're playing Superman's dog next year. I'm just so tired. I'm tired of you. And your Terramana. And I want to get a bottle of your tequila. I still want to drink your tequila. But I'm just so tired of you, man. I can't, like let's talk action heroes, right? You've got, you got bad boys like Bronson or whatever like that. I haven't even seen any of those films, but the honorable mention, right? First action hero I think of is Arnold Schwarzenegger, looking like something sculpted out of marble. I've never seen anyone like that. You're giving him guns, he's just having a face, everything is shot around him, it's impressive. And then he's able to still show so much character by doing all the comedies and stuff like that. I don't believe you can do that, Rock. I actually don't believe you have the comedy chops to do that, not like Schwarzenegger does. And then people get a bit tired of that, and they're like, you know what, we need someone who can actually move. And they bring in people like Steven Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme, who are just actual experts in their field. These are proper martial arts. That's something you also can't do, Rock. And then when people get tired of that, they bring in the Bruce Willis. They bring in the balding, moonlighting John McClanes to come in there, run around the bare feet. They bring in, or even, a Harrison Ford, someone who just can get hit and then just get back up and look like they're in pain, and you can kind of get on side with them. I don't know what you're doing in Skyscraper. I cannot relate to you. I do not find you attractive. You are not an everyman. You just stand out. What you play a diamond, a diamond heist expert. A guy who looks like that is a fucking diamond heist expert in Red Notice. Doesn't make any sense to me, bro. I love you, but I don't know how many more things you need to be grateful for. I don't know what else you want, and I'm not buying your fucking French toast. And I know who's going to be my pick for next year, and it breaks my heart. It's going to be Chris Pratt. It's going to be Chris Pratt. He's doing the voice of Mario. He's doing the voice of Garfield. I'm pretty sure he's doing the voice of someone else. I can't even remember right now. Enough is enough. Right, now I'm going to give you some flicks that I was very disappointed with this year, right? And not even because I really hyped them up, but just some flicks that you're just kind of like, oh no, is this how things are going, right? As I mentioned, Encanto, I just thought it was piss poor, right? And I know I'm a fucking grown man. I shouldn't really give a shit about, Pixar musicals, but I thought it just... How do you not have really good songs? And how do you not have a story that's... I know it's probably going to appeal to some kind of black sheep of the family, and maybe it's a gay-coded thing that I'm not necessarily picking up or isn't resonating with me, feeling like a bit of an outsider, and everyone else kind of fulfilling their potential, and you feeling like an outcast, or whatever it might be. It might be a kind of a marginalized experience that I'm not going through, but I didn't like it. Another one I didn't like was Eternals. Now, look, I know for some people they're going to be like... For some people, it's going to be a 5-star flick, right? It has so many different stories. It has so much heart, but it has too much fucking heart. It's all of the hearts of all of the characters trying to fit through the door at the same time, getting stuck. And you're like, well, there's no one in the room now because you're all trying to get in with your heart, right? For some people, they're going to, if there's a deaf kid, they're going to say, oh my God, there I am as a superhero. There's going to be Irish kids looking, oh, there I am, Barry Keoghan doing his actual voice, within reason, they did want to understand him, and you got kids of gay parents being like, look, there's my dad, there's my two lovely gay dads on the screen, being superheroes. Kumail Nanjiani playing a Pakistani Bollywood star. It's all there for the right people, but for me, a snarky cis straight white man who no, but for me, who's just trying to be a snarky fucker who sees how this fits in the overall MCU, I'm like, who are you people? I don't know who you are. I'm used to movies about men, lads who break out of prison and they steal a suit that makes them tiny and they become ant-men, It's just fairly self-contained. You're bringing in, it's not even lore. It's just like, I don't like any of these people. They're people who are here, they're super powered, but they can't get involved. They're not allowed to get involved. They can't stop Thanos. They let the snap happen, but yet they can invent the seed drill and propel civilization thousands and thousands of years. They can pick and choose. Sweaty enough premise. I don't like any of the characters. I thought the action was bad. I thought the character design is some of the worst I've seen. For a movie like, The Tomorrow War, which is just an amalgam of all this shit, to come out with a brand new alien I've never seen before, and then this comes out with just things, they look worse than the Chitauri from the first Avengers movie, I'm not having to go with the Chitauri, they were fine for the time, but, it's, and I couldn't tell you the story of it. It doesn't have a good story. It's adult, but it's not good. Like, it's adult, but like, it's not like Logan, It's not like adult as in like it's R-rated or anything like that. It's I just really didn't enjoy it, and it also kind of tees up this big thing at the end about Thanos, and it's like this is not the right film for it. But also, like, I just don't think they're ever going to get that back. Nothing will ever match the cinema experience and the culmination of everything that you wanted and seeing it in Endgame and everyone cheering at all the right bits. It was, as Scorsese said, like a roller coaster ride, and it was brilliant. And we're never going to get that back. And I know I need to change my mindset, and I need to enjoy things just on their level. As I said, that's what almost ruined WandaVision for me, because I'm looking for symbols and everything like that. But if the current state of the Marvel landscape is them trying to do stuff like Eternals, and Sony doing stuff like Venom, Let There Be Carnage, which was another fucking like as if it could be a letdown because it was never going to be good. But I heard it was 90 minutes. I heard it was a get in, get out. I heard it was an odd couple kind of thing. And then what happens is it ends in the most boring boss fight I've ever seen in comic book movie history. It is just so predictable, boring. You don't even know what's happening. Like, I know Michael Bay gets a bad rep for Transformers because all the moving parts can't fucking see it. Imagine that, but with liquid at night. And I'm just thinking the only good part about this movie, and it is fun, is Tom Hardy debating with himself, which he gives Venom this weird fucking Welsh accent, and him just having these constant scraps. Venom is not the big superhero, right? I know you're making him out like he is, or anti-hero, or whatever it is in this movie, right? But he is, not even in the top 5 villains for Spider-Man. So if you have a character like that, he doesn't need to be as important as you think he is. It's actually a good thing he's not that important. You could make the first ever exclusive, do Ted with Venom. Do fucking Mark Wahlberg and a fucking teddy bear. Do Seth MacFarlane's Ted with Venom and have no superhero consequence. They're just living in the flat. Give me a whole movie of it. Honestly, it would be the breath of fresh air that this superhero genre needs. And DC are going to do it because DC are not able to fit in the Marvel model anymore. And Sony are trying to copy kind of the Marvel model, but they don't have the deft touch. They do not have the deft touch. I've been chatting on you can hear my voice now. I'm actually going hoarse now. I'm chatting such shy. So why not just take a risk? Make a movie that is a superhero rom-com. Make one that's fucking Venom and Eddie Brock go to White Castle. Do you know what I mean? Just you had the opportunity for doing something completely different, and it was going that way. And then what you end up with is just the most boring, beige, vanilla, shite scrap at the top of a clock tower. And it's just no imagination and just so unsatisfying. So deeply, deeply unsatisfying. And the last flick is The French Dispatch. Wes Anderson's The French Dispatch, which I didn't think I didn't think you could make do too much of a Wes Anderson movie, but this actually, do you know what? It's not even too Wes Anderson-y, because normally Wes Anderson movie has heart. It's normally a kind of down on their luck protagonist who just lives outside the real world. They live in a fantasy land, whether they live in theater or they live in in film or in a book. There's always these. And this is his newspaper movie. This is his New Yorker movie, but because it's a kind of an anthology or whatever you call it, like 3 short stories, even though each short story has an opportunity to have a character like that or something you can kind of get behind, you're just kind of watching stuff happen, and it's all journalistic speak, and so it's kind of, it's not very palatable. It's not particularly enjoyable to watch, in my opinion, and I think it's exactly the movie he wanted to make, and he'll probably go back to something that's a bit more of a kind of a, I don't know, some character speaks, different from how everyone else speaks. So some kid with big bottled glasses, speaks like a, 1940s detective sleuth in the Northern Territories of Australia, and falls in love with an Aboriginal girl, But these is just everything. Everyone speaks like that robotic, Wes Anderson kind of. Like everyone, no character gets to differentiate themselves, and there's so many people who want to work with him. And I get it. He is this, he's in terms of like a palette of actors, he can get whoever he wants to do anything. It's the only thing that Bill Murray shows up for anymore. But the fact that everyone just talks exactly like each other, you're like, this could be anyone. You could literally have chopped and slotted in anyone here. So everyone's performance is so restrictive because they have to speak like a Wes Anderson character. Do you know? Now, look, I was going to do. All right, look, I'll very briefly just do, and I'm not going to talk about Spider-Man now, even though I don't know if people give a shit, but I might do that on an upcoming pod, because I still don't have my thoughts on it, but my initial thoughts is that I don't like it. I think it's actually dumb. I think the plot is dumb, and it gives reverence to things that I don't like, so why should I kind of cheer when I see them kind of come back? I hated Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin. I thought he was shite. He's insane, and I didn't like the whole part of it. I like Andrew Garfield, but I didn't like his Spider-Man. So I certainly don't give a shit that the worst villain that's ever been in a Spider-Man movie comes back, and it's more Sony than it is Marvel. And I don't have a huge issue with that. I know I'm more on the Marvel bandwagon. And you don't be rooting for these corporations, because these corporations don't give a shit about you. And they will as easily cut out 2 gay people kissing if it's going to offend the market. So, they are just there for the dollar and all that. So I don't have any allegiance, but I do think Marvel make a better movie. So why should I give a shit about that? Why should Sandman coming back in pure CG sand? I just think, and Doctor Strange, if you've seen the trailer, just doing the stupidest thing, just a stupid decision that sets and you know what, like, Spider-Man's a smart guy. If you ever play Marvel Top Trumps, he's up there with Reed Richards. He's up there, not as far as Xavier, but he's one of the smartest characters. And I love Tom Holland's portrayal of him, but he's smarter than this in this flick. And it also, it kind of just sets up this next era for Spider-Man that I don't know if I'm excited about, and I'm kind of dissatisfied with. And I don't know if they know what they're doing with the multiverse, which is the only thing they have. Until, of course, X-Men, and that's going to change everything. When they get X-Men and they get it right, that is going to be their cash cow. You may as well have another Disney, have another Marvel that's all X-Men. You're going to have high school, will they, won't they, Riverdale shows that take place in Xavier's Institute for Gifted Youngsters. You're going to have classic X-Men. You're going to have new X-Men. You're going to have English X-Men. You're going to have everything. There's always a team. Don't you get it? It's always only been about X-Men. When they told me they were making an Avengers movie, I laughed my ass off. And you think it's going to be better than X-Men? X-Men is everything. Best villains, imho, apart from Spider-Man's villains. It has the most relatable superhero stories. They're not all powerful. They're outcasts. A lot of them don't even want their powers. Whenever they figure out X-Men, whenever they start it, it's going to be the cash cow that they have. And there's hopefully this kind of middling phase can just, peter out. Pardon the Parker pun. Until they figure out X-Men. And I actually wager that they're going to bail they might introduce the X-Men in the MCU, but they're gonna have an MCU and they're gonna have an XCU. It is that rich of a vein to mine once they get that right. So XCU, you heard it here first. I coined it. They can pay me billions in revenue now. Now listen, thank you very much for listening to this pod. Thank you very much for just letting me talk about some films and tell you a story about when I smoked a fake bifter out on the beach. I would like to also thank the sponsor of this week's podcast, the Dublin Irish Whiskey. Go to the DLD.com, grab yourself a bottle. As I said, I've been really enjoying these highballs. They're going down smooth. I should actually grab another one now before my voice totally goes. And I want to thank... I've already thanked you. Listen, thanks very much for listening. I'll be back over on Friday on the Patreon. If you like this podcast and actually you'd like to listen to a few more, go over to patreon.com/Tony Cantwell and you can get and sign up for a podcast that you can listen to, an extra podcast that you can listen to every single Friday just for the price of a pint. And as new tickets for gigs are announced, they will always be at least 24-hour early bird access over on the Patreon to get those tickets. Listen, thank you very much. All the best. Bye-bye.